Few names in the sports car world carry the weight of the Nissan Z. For over 50 years, this lineup has been the bridge between affordable performance and everyday driving, from the iconic 240Z that reshaped expectations in the 1970s, through the tuner-era 350Z and 370Z that became staples in drift culture, track days, and garages all over the world. Every generation has carried the same mission: deliver a car that feels alive in your hands without putting it out of reach for enthusiasts. By the time the 370Z reached the end of its run, the formula was showing its age. The design hadn't moved forward, competitors were leaving it behind, and fans were starting to wonder if Nissan had lost sight of what made the Z special. The 2023 model is Nissan's answer. It takes the familiar shape, mixes retro cues with a modern edge, and brings the Z name back into focus. This car isn't about chasing luxury or blending into a crowded lineup of crossovers. It's about carrying a legacy forward. The Z has always represented a certain kind of driver, someone who wants character, balance, and raw excitement at a price that feels attainable. With the return of the Z in 2023, Nissan is making it clear that this spirit isn't going anywhere. The 2023 Nissan Z is more than just another model year. It's a full reboot of one of the most important names in Japanese performance history. After years of anticipation, Nissan finally brought the Z into a new generation, carefully walking the line between honoring its heritage and modernizing the formula. The result is a car that feels instantly recognizable, yet sharper and more refined. Visually, the Z leans heavily on classic cues. The long hood and short rear deck layout remains, giving the car those trademark proportions that set the very first 240Z apart back in the 1970s. At the front, the squared-off grille has been a talking point since the reveal, and while not everyone agrees on its styling, there's no denying it's bold and unmistakably Z. The headlights are a modern LED take on the original 240Z's round lamps, with a half-circle signature that nods directly to the past. Out back, the taillights borrow inspiration from the 300ZX of the 1990s, adding another layer of nostalgia for longtime fans. It's a car that wears its history on its sleeve, but in a way that doesn't feel dated. Trim levels are simple and straightforward. The base Sport model offers an entry point into the Z world, aimed at keeping the car accessible to enthusiasts. Above it sits the Performance trim, which adds bigger brakes, upgraded wheels, and additional equipment that enthusiasts expect. For the launch year, Nissan also released the Proto Spec, a limited edition model with unique exterior touches and exclusivity for collectors. This clear trim breakdown makes the lineup easy to understand: a standard car for purists, a better equipped model for drivers who want more, and a collectible for diehards. Dimensionally, the Z sits close to the outgoing 370Z, but Nissan engineers reworked key aspects. The body structure was reinforced with additional rigidity, giving it a more solid foundation. The wheelbase and length are familiar, but the stance feels wider and more planted thanks to subtle changes in design. This balance is important. The Z remains a compact sports coupe rather than chasing larger Grand Tourer proportions, keeping the driver-focused spirit intact. In the marketplace, the Z lands in an interesting spot. It's positioned as a direct rival to cars like the Toyota GR Supra, Ford Mustang GT, and even some base Porsche models. Its combination of price, rear-wheel drive layout, and enthusiast options makes it stand out in a shrinking field of affordable sports cars. At a time when many brands are moving toward crossovers and EVs, Nissan chose to double down on a traditional sports coupe, and that alone makes the 2023 Z feel significant. Beyond trims and styling, what stands out most is intent. Nissan could have easily let the Z fade away, but instead they invested in a redesign that reconnects with the brand's identity. For fans, it feels like a promise that the Z isn't going anywhere. It's still here, it's still rear-wheel drive, and it's still designed for people who care about the drive itself. Performance has always been the heart of the Z, and the 2023 model finally delivers the jump fans had been waiting for. The old 370Z was fun, but underpowered compared to rivals, and Nissan's answer was a brand new twin-turbocharged 3.0-liter V6. Output climbs to 400 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque, a massive improvement over the outgoing naturally aspirated V6. The engine comes straight from the Infiniti Red Sport, giving the Z proven reliability and strong strong tuning potential right out of the gate. Drivers get a choice between a 6-speed manual or a 9-speed automatic. The manual comes with rev-matching downshifts and a performance clutch, while the automatic gets launch control and quick paddle shifts. Nissan made sure both options keep the car engaging, but for purists, the fact that a stick shift is still on the table in 2023 is a huge win. Chassis upgrades were just as important as power. The car still rides on a version of the FM platform, but Nissan reinforced the body with extra rigidity and reworked the suspension geometry. Up front, a double wishbone design improves cornering grip and steering precision, while the multi-link rear helps the car put power down more effectively. Larger brakes and improved cooling systems were added, especially in the performance trim, making the Z feel far more confident during repeated hot laps than its predecessor ever could. On track, the Z's character shines through. Reviews and owners alike note that it's neutral and predictable. Testers point out that the new Z may not match the absolute polish of higher-priced rivals, but the balance between power and control makes it one of the most fun cars in its price range. Tires and damping have been a point of criticism. The stock setup holds the car back from its full potential. Enthusiasts who've tracked the Z mention that a better tire and coilover setup transform it, unlocking grip and stability that put it closer to true sports car territory. Nissan left room for the aftermarket to improve it, which is fitting for a Z model. These cars have always been about personal tuning and modification. Overall, the 2023 Z finally feels like it belongs back in the performance conversation. It has the power, the handling, and the driving character to compete with rivals like the Supra and Mustang GT, while staying true to its roots as a raw rear-wheel drive coupe for enthusiasts. Inside, the 2023 Z strikes a balance between modern upgrades and retro cues that pay homage to past generations. The first thing that stands out is the 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster. It's crisp, customizable, and gives the driver everything from a traditional tack layout to performance-focused displays. Sitting just above the center stack are 3 analog gauges for boost pressure, turbo speed, and voltage, a direct throwback to the old Z cars that makes the cockpit feel instantly familiar. The layout is driver-centric, with controls angled slightly toward the pilot and visibility designed to keep attention on the road. Materials have stepped up noticeably compared to the 370Z, with better stitching, improved trim finishes, and available suede or leather accents depending on trim level. The performance trim adds extra refinement, while the sport keeps things more straightforward. Seating has also been reworked. The chairs are supportive without being overly aggressive, striking a middle ground between daily comfort and the bolstering needed for spirited driving. In the Protospec and Nismo editions, buyers get special details like unique seat embroidery, red accents, or Recaro buckets, but even the standard setup feels more modern and comfortable than before. Technology was another overdue update. Alongside the digital cluster is a central infotainment screen with modern connectivity features, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and a responsive interface that brings the Z in line with current expectations. A decent sound system and improved climate controls make the car easier to live with day to day, without losing the focused driving environment enthusiasts expect. Overall, the cabin finally feels like it belongs in a modern sports car. It's not overly flashy or luxurious, but it has the essentials that matter: a driver-first layout, retro details that connect to the Z's history, and enough comfort to keep it usable as more than just a weekend toy. One of the smartest moves Nissan made with the new Z was basing its engine on a proven platform. The 3.0-liter VR30 twin-turbo V6 comes directly from the Infiniti Red Sport lineup, which means mechanics already know it inside and out. That translates to easier servicing, a growing supply of aftermarket parts, and confidence for owners who want to push the car harder. Compared to the old naturally aspirated V6 in the 370Z, the twin-turbo motor not only makes more power, but it responds better to upgrades. Simple intake and exhaust swaps free up noticeable gains, and tuners are already reporting strong results from ECU remaps. On the mechanical side, shops point out that the chassis and drivetrain are stout enough to handle extra power. Nissan reinforced the structure with more welds and adhesives, and the manual transmission comes with a stronger clutch than before. While no car is bulletproof, mechanics generally agree the 2023 Z is a solid base for modification, especially when compared to the 370Z, which often needed heavy upgrades just to handle track abuse. The aftermarket has jumped on the new Z quickly. Coilover kits, upgraded sway bars, and brake packages are already being offered, with many owners saying the first thing the car needs is stickier tires and improved suspension damping. From there, the sky's the limit. Boost upgrades and intercooler swaps can push the engine well past 500 horsepower, and tuners have suggested it has the potential to comfortably reach Supra territory with the right mods. For a new platform, the speed of aftermarket support shows just how much excitement there is in the community. Resale value is always a question for new sports cars, especially in a market where supply is tight and markups are common. Early 2023 Z models sold with heavy dealer premiums, but as the dust settled, trade-in values stabilized in the mid $30,000 range depending on condition and trim. That means depreciation is steeper than fans hoped, but still better than some rivals. Historically, Z cars have held value among enthusiasts, especially clean, manual transmission examples. If the new Z follows the same path, the right trim could become a sought-after car once supply levels out. In short, from a mechanic's lift to the used market, the 2023 Z shows promise. It's reliable enough to handle upgrades, the aftermarket has embraced it quickly, and while resale isn't bulletproof, the enthusiast factor helps keep it stronger than many cars in its price class. The 2023 Nissan Z is proof that heritage still matters in today's car market. It doesn't chase trends or try to reinvent itself as something it's not. Instead, it takes the elements that made the Z name iconic: rear-wheel drive, sharp looks, attainable pricing, and updates them just enough to feel relevant again. It's not a perfect sports car. Stock tires and suspension tuning hold it back on track, and depreciation has hit harder than some expected. But those flaws also make it feel authentic to the Z story. This has always been a car for enthusiasts, for tinkerers, and for drivers who want something raw enough to make their own. What stands out most is that Nissan could have walked away from this car entirely. They could have followed the industry into crossovers and EVS and left the Z in the past. Instead, they chose to give it new life. That decision says as much about the Z's importance as any performance number ever could. The result is a car that blends nostalgia with modern capability, one that feels familiar but exciting at the same time. For longtime Z owners, it's a worthy continuation. For new buyers, it's a rare chance to own a rear-wheel drive, manual transmission sports car at a time when those choices are shrinking fast. The 2023 Nissan Z isn't just a name revived, it's a statement that the spirit of affordable performance is still alive.